Hello and welcome to today's lesson where we're looking at the STAR interview method, which is a technique for answering tough behavioural interview questions. So by the time you've finished this video, you will understand the STAR interview method and when you should use it. You'll have examples of STAR model answers to interview questions you can adapt to suit your needs. And finally, you'll learn a simple three-step process you can use to better prepare yourself to use the STAR method so that you have confidence going into your next interview. So the best time to use the STAR method is when you encounter behavioural interview questions. But what exactly are behavioural interview questions? Well, they're questions about how you've behaved in the past. And they typically begin with phrases such as, tell me about a time when, or give me an example of a situation where. Now, from an interviewer's perspective, these questions allow them to ascertain if you have the behaviours and experience they're looking for. And these qualities can be difficult to determine from your resume alone, and they cover areas such as team working, problem solving, working under pressure, and overcoming setbacks. Now, from your perspective as the person being interviewed, they allow you to let your past work performance show what you could do for this employer. They also give you the opportunity to differentiate yourself from other candidates applying for the same role. Now, some examples of behavioural interview questions are here, such as, give me an example of a challenging conversation you've previously had to handle. Describe a time when you were under significant pressure. How did you get through that period? Tell me about a time when you were unhappy at work. What did you do to improve the situation? Explain a time when you had to make a very rapid decision. How did you do it? Tell me about a time when you failed. What did you learn from the experience? So let's jump in and take a look at how the STAR method works. Now, STAR is an acronym standing for Situation, Task, Action, and Result. And each word of the acronym is a step, and you perform each step in order. So the first step is situation. And in this step, you describe the situation you were facing. So you're setting the scene for your answer by explaining how you found yourself in this situation. Step 2 is task, and in this step, you describe what your task was given the situation you just described. The third step is action, and here you describe the actions you took to complete the task. Essentially, you need to explain what you did and the challenges you overcame to succeed. And the final step is result, and here you describe what results were attributable directly to your actions. So you should describe the results in terms of the benefits delivered. And this step is also the time to explain any learnings you had from the experience. So with that, let's take a look at an example question and how you might answer it using the STAR method. The question we're going to consider is, tell me about a time when you had to work under enormous time pressure. How did you handle the challenge? So if we break down an answer using the STAR method, you can see here an example answer to the question, and it's broken down into blocks. So for situation, you might say something like this. I was a software developer working on a rewrite of the company's most important system. We had a hard deadline that couldn't be moved. Everything was progressing to plan, but then one of my colleagues got sick and had to take time off just a few weeks before the project was due. So in terms of task, I had to pick up their workload as well as my own. So what action did I take? Well, to ensure we didn't miss the deadline, I had to ruthlessly prioritize tasks to ensure only the absolutely essential ones got done. I also had to delegate where I could. So what was the result? Well, it was intense pressure, but I immensely enjoyed it, and we were able to complete the software on time. So as you can see, this type of question, without using the STAR method, could lead to you giving a really vague and waffly answer, but the STAR method helps keep it focused on the action you took and the results you achieved. Let's take a look at another example. And the example we're going to look at this time is the question, describe a time when you managed a challenging project. So let's take a look at the answer. So firstly, for situation, in my last job, the company brought me in to replace the previous project manager. The project was failing because of conflicting personalities within the organization. So in terms of task, my job was to get the project back on track quickly. This was a difficult task because poor relationships are difficult to mend. So in terms of action, I started by having meetings individually with each stakeholder to understand their issues. From this, it became apparent that the different stakeholders' win conditions had not been taken into account when putting the original project plan together. So no wonder the project was failing. I restructured the project to better meet the win conditions of all stakeholders. So what did this result in? Well, having met the needs of all stakeholders, the project had support from across the organization. The previously problematic stakeholders encouraged their teams to get behind the project. After that, the project ran relatively smoothly. The experience really brought home to me how important it is to structure a project for success from the outset. So again, with this answer, you can see how using the STAR method keeps everything focused on the challenge, the steps you took, and the result it achieved. Now you can adapt these two examples to suit questions you think you might be asked or to suit your experience. So how might you go about preparing for your next interview? Well, imagine you have a job interview tomorrow and you're nervous because you know the interviewers will surprise you with all kinds of random questions. But you're now familiar with the STAR interview method, but because you're nervous and you're going to be performing under pressure, it's worth taking some time to prepare. And since you don't know what questions the interviewer will ask you, we're going to prepare a list of several scenarios. So the steps you're going to take are, number one, take a look at the job description for the skills required in the job. Write these down and think about how you have displayed these skills in your previous employment. Step two is to write down any scenarios you can think of from your previous employment that you're proud of. And finally, step three, you can think of steps 1 and 2 as being your research, and then in step 3, it's now time to write down, usually 6 is a good number, but write down some behavioural interview questions and answer them using the STAR method. Now, the areas you might want to cover are things like teamwork, problem solving, working under pressure, overcoming setbacks, leadership, and using your initiative. And by doing these 3 steps, by preparing in this way, you'll be more prepared than you might realise, because even if your interviewer asks you a completely different question to the ones you've prepared, you might find that one of your prepared answers works as an answer. So for example, if you're asked to talk about when you displayed leadership, maybe your answer for using your initiative can work. So in summary, the STAR interview method is a great way to answer interview questions about how you handled situations in the past. If you've used this video to prepare for an interview, then why not drop a comment below this video to share how your interview went and how using the STAR method worked for you. So that's it for this lesson. Really hope you enjoyed it, and I look forward to speaking to you again soon.